So Russell, you're a national account partner manager. You're a very experienced sales professional. So when you looked at the online sales academy that we put together, what was attractive about that for you then, given your experience?
I think the big thing about being furloughed is that I needed to spend time doing something useful rather than just watching box sets. And I think the way it was broken down in modules and it wasn't a long daily process and lots of work around it was great. And everything's a refresher, and I think you can learn bits from cohorts and people you might not have interacted with. And I think all the way through, it made a big difference and gave us some ideas for when I come back.
Okay, and I understand you're back this week, aren't you? So you've got a pile of notes from 9 modules that were delivered a couple of weeks ago. How do you feel the content has energized you then for getting back into work?
I think it's given me some different kind of angles to look at, a lot around the cold calling, a lot about the research of who we're going to target. Again, like you said, the strategy, right? Well, it's no point doing 100 calls if you're just ringing people that have got no interest. So after the first couple, I kind of spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, just putting a list together of people I'd really like to speak to and why they would speak to me. So I think that kind of strategizing rather than just going gung-ho when I come back were kind of ideal, really.
Okay, well, it was designed to give people ideas and incentives to go away and try things. And because we had a couple of days break between each session, a lot of people embraced that, but you certainly seem to do that. Is that, was that as a result of your commitment to yourself for doing the program, or was the program itself instrumental in that?
I think the fact that I found it, and I'd spoken to you before, and before we did the online, I've met you a couple of times and been networking. I thought, right, well, you've got some good stuff to say, and you kind of go, right, well, my commitment is if I start something, I make sure I go all the way through it. And I think that's just, I think that's how it should be. If you're going to try and learn, I mean, there were odd days when it kind of didn't quite fit, but I moved stuff around because if you're not going to do the whole course, I think that you miss some key bits and you miss the interactions as to how the bit before or the bit after might actually fit with the whole process. And like you said all the way through, sales is just a process. It's not a scary thing. It's if you get your ducks in a row, then happy days, it should all fall into place.
Yeah, well, it was designed for that. And it's great that the feedback's come back on that basis, because I looked at the sales cycle, a typical business-to-business sales cycle, and broke it down into different elements. So what about the enjoyment factor? Because you seem to get a real buzz out of it. You were very vocal with some of the people when you were coming on the call and things. How did you enjoy that sort of relationship build and enjoyment part of that?
Well, when you're being furloughed, talking to anybody is a complete pleasure. But no, again, there were lots of people on there. I've kind of not met a lot networking, but there were a few people and think, oh, I recognise them from some of the posts you do on LinkedIn. And I think getting interactions with people that I've not been able to interact with pre-lockdown just because they're not in the same circles, and you realise that sales is exactly the same whether they do spa treatments or whether they do telecoms or whether they do nuts and bolts, and you go, we all have exactly the same challenges. So I think it was good, the fact that you can now identify that I'm not special in my needs, everybody else has that same requirement. Yeah,
good stuff. Okay, and what would you say to anybody considering an Impactous online sales academy then, Russell?
Oh, definitely have a look. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, bits you take out of it are well worth spending the time. And again, because you can jump in and out of it, if you needed to, you could do. But I think going the whole way through is just a big reminder of how actually monitoring what you're doing on a daily basis and having a plan around it will work for you.
Okay, well, you're an absolute pleasure to have on the program. You're very vocal about the musical choice. For those who don't know, we had on the open program, we had a music style for each of the modules, but we had to link it to the title. It's fair to say Russell wasn't the biggest fan of some of my music tastes. Would that be fair, Russell?
Yeah, I think we may be slightly different generation on some of the tracks, but some of them I kind of bought into. But sales is a tricky subject, and account management, I can't think of better tracks so you could have picked than you did. So yeah, no, interesting.
Excellent. Okay, well, listen, it's a pleasure to see you again. Thank you for the program. Thanks for the video testimonial, and I wish you luck with getting back into the world of work from later on this week.
Well, cheers. Thanks very much for your grace course. Thank you.
No problem. Cheers, Russell. Thanks.